The last application this evening is 15-020, 30 Old Post Road, Shoreline Rail and Recycling.
Mr. Chairman, may we request that the drawings be placed in such a way that the audience can see them as well, please? Thank you.
All right, I want to make sure everybody can see the picture.
Sure.
Maybe just kick it a little bit that way. You guys all set? You can see it? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Good evening. My name is George Andrews. I'm with Loureiro Engineering Associates, Plainville, Connecticut. And I'm a professional engineer and a licensed environmental professional, state of Connecticut. And I'm here on behalf of Shoreline Rail and Recycling, the applicant, Alan Askenazi. And I thought what I'd go through tonight is just for an agenda, I'd give you a little bit of background. A little bit of background on the parcel, what was there, what's happened to the site, etc. Talk a little bit about the proposed activities, talk about the regulatory program, certainly in town, and the variances requested, and then just spend a couple of moments on the response to comments. So with regard to background on the parcel, the site is, as indicated, is located at 30 Old Post Road. It's 11.2 acres in total. Old Post Road runs right through this area. And was formerly housed the Unilever distribution warehouse, not the manufacturing facility, but the distribution warehouse. The prior building structure was 186,000 square foot. The slab for the structure is shown on this drawing. I've outlined that in white. As you're probably all aware, the building collapsed 2013 as a result of a significant snow load from the blizzard which occurred somewhere around the 8th or 9th of February 2013. Old Post Road Realty purchased the parcel in January 2014. At that point, as I mentioned, the roof had collapsed, the structure was blighted, and upon acquisition, they immediately initiated demolition of the structure, cleaned the site up, got the material moved off of the site, and actually used the existing rail spur for recycling of some of the metal products and disposal of some of the construction and demolition debris. The site is equipped with both public water and miscellaneous utilities, communications, and power. It does have an on-site septic system. There's an older septic system located over here that served this portion of the building. There's a newer septic system which is located right up here, and that is accessed by a pump system. And this is the actual functioning system at this point, and that's a system that would be proposed to be used in the future. There are wetlands present on the site. We have wetlands up in this area right here, and if you look closely at the topography, you'll notice a difference in grade. We're at about elevation 20 up here. The slab is at about elevation 9 to 9.1, and the grade around the railroad tracks is elevation 6. So this wetland is quite a bit higher than the site proper. There are, as I go on in my presentation, you'll see reference to some correspondence from Mr. Thomas. Wade Thomas gave me a call and he indicated, I went out and did an inspection on the site and I noticed some wetland flags down by the railroad tracks. So there must be another project in the vicinity. We immediately contacted our soil scientist, David Lord, had him go out to the site, and on the updated drawing that you have, I shaded several areas along here with the estimated location of those wetlands flags that someone else had flagged. We just surveyed them today, and I didn't have time to get them on the drawing for tonight. So we do have the wetlands fully delineated by David Lord on our behalf at this point. The site is located within the coastal boundary, and it's also within the FEMA coastal flood zone. I have that demarcated on here with a dark dashed line. The AE zone is flood elevation 12 to the south of that line, and above it is Zone X. There was one previous variance that I just wanted to call attention to. It is in the application. It was granted June 25th, 1975. It was to section B12. It was a variance for lot coverage, and the lot coverage at that time was 38.2. And I believe your zoning regulations have changed substantially since then, and that's no longer necessary from a compliance perspective. The most important feature that I want to call attention to on the site is a rail spur. It's very important to ultimately the use and essentially why the warehouse was actually located where it is. Access to the rail was the utmost of importance, and the finished floor slab elevation is obviously tied to the rail elevation, so that you're able to load directly into the rail cars. That rail is owned by National Railroad Passenger Corporation, Amtrak, and as I say, has been utilized as recent as 2004 to assist, in the demolition activities at the site.
2014?
2014. Did I say 2004? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I want to just talk a little bit about the proposed uses. We went through your zoning regulations, and there's 2 uses that are proposed for the site at this point. Wanted to identify both of those. The first is manufacturing, processing, or assembling of goods, and the second is excavation, grading, and deposit of materials. So at this point in the application process, we're before you asking for several variances, which I'll get into in a couple of moments in my presentation. But from a use perspective, I wanted to identify the uses that are proposed generally. Obviously, we'll be getting into significantly more detail when we're in front of planning and zoning with regard to the actual use of the site. So tonight I'm here just to really talk about the structure and the variances requested to allow us to reconstruct on the existing slab. So our proposal is to construct a new 94,500 square foot building structure. It would be located on the existing slab, and I have that identified in brown here. It's obviously smaller than the previous, which, as I mentioned, was 186,000 square feet. We'll be using the existing parking located over here. We'll be using the existing paved. This was a loading area. This was a loading dock. That area would be used basically to access the building and trucks, etc. Existing utilities would be utilized. No new utilities would be necessary. We did speak with the town sanitarian about the secondary septic system, as I mentioned to you. That we would anticipate fully utilizing that. We would abandon this system over in this location. The building is, I want to give just a little bit of detail on the building that's proposed. It's 225 feet in this north-south direction, 420 feet in length. And that building would be essentially open on both sides. And that would facilitate trucks to actually come in and load and unload within it, within the building, and then exit the building and get back onto Route 145. The back of the building obviously is going to be open to allow and facilitate direct access of rail cars. So the rail spur is obviously of the utmost importance to not only the use, but really the site itself. It's what brings the value to this particular site. I wanted to just summarize the regulatory program in town that we're going to go through. And obviously, we're in front of you, and we're talking about a request for certificate of variance. Once again, for the structure, we're looking at 3 different variances. I'm looking for 1 or 2, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. Our first request is for CZR 27.2.3, which is reconstruction of non-conforming structures. You have a 2-year sunset associated with that particular regulation for reconstruction of structures that were damaged by storms or acts of God. The building was demolished, and the building collapsed in 2013, February of 2013. The sunset expired February 9, 2015. So consequently, we're past that deadline, the 2-year deadline, and we're requesting an extension of that particular program by 2 years. That's one option that we have in order to reconstruct the proposed building on the existing slab at elevation 9. As an alternative to that particular variance, there are 2 other variances that could be granted in lieu of that. And those variances are CZR 17.6.2, and that's the finished floor elevation within a flood zone. Your requirement is for 1 foot above the base flood elevation. The base flood elevation, as I mentioned, is 12.0, which would put our finished floor at elevation 13. As I mentioned, once again, we're at elevation 9, which is certainly critical to the access to the rail. And I'll get into some of the other hardships in a bit more detail in a moment. Secondly, the building structure is located about 3 feet off of the property line, once again, to facilitate direct access to that rail spur. So consequently, we would be constructing that building within that side yard setback. So we would be, in addition to CZR 17.6.2, we would need to request CZR 2511.8, which is a side yard setback. And we'd be requesting a reduction from 25 feet to 3 feet. So that summarizes the Zoning Board of Appeals actions that we're requesting. In addition, we need to apply to the Inland Wetlands Commission. We do have wetlands down in this area, and in this area we are proposing activity within 100 feet of the wetlands over here. So consequently, we will certainly be in front of Inland Wetlands. We'll be in front of the Design Review Board, looking for an endorsement and referral up to Planning and Zoning. And of course, we'll be in front of Planning and Zoning for a special exception, construction alteration within a flood zone, and also coastal site plan review. So it's a rigorous permitting process, and we're starting here in front of you tonight, trying to get the wheels rolling on the project. I wanted to just summarize, I mentioned the variances that we're requesting. I want to just summarize some of the hardship that the site, the owners and such have gone through, and the basis and rationale for requesting each of the variances that we've requested. And really the first one is, it's number 2. The first request that we put in, which is basically reconstruction of non-conforming structures, was all really about timing. The property was for sale, it was vacant at the time of the roof collapse. So it sat vacant for a while after the roof collapse until the applicant came along and felt that they could really do something with the site. So they purchased it about a year after the roof collapsed. It took some time, obviously effort and resources to get the demolition executed and completed. At that time, a plan was in place for reuse of the site. So the reuse that they were looking at required certainly a building structure greater than 40,000 square feet. And at the time, your zoning regulations had a limitation of 40,000 square foot limitation. So consequently, they were encouraged to wait because the town representatives that we worked with understood that there was a proposal to modify that, bring that number up to 100,000, in which case the construction of this building would be permitted without need for a waiver or a variance. So that took a little bit of time. That I believe that zoning change was codified in December 2014. We also, the applicant and myself, had scheduled a meeting with the Department of Environmental Protection for the proposed use of the site, and that meeting didn't occur until January 26th of this year, of 2015. So the applicant was really waiting to get some understanding of some certainty within it, and during that time frame, obviously, the 2-year window for reconstruction expired. So the applicant is requesting construction at elevation 9 and within the side yard under that particular request. And once again, that's reconstruction of non-conforming structures. The applicant is willing to put all of the critical facilities associated with the building at an elevation at or above elevation 13. And they fully understand the implications of building with the finished floor elevation at elevation 9. Okay, my next two, I'll be brief on these two. Finished floor elevation within a flood zone. I think the most compelling hardship that we really have on that, there are a variety in the application, but I think the most compelling is clearly access to the rail, direct access to the rail. It's imperative to the use that's proposed for the site. The rail spur is there. We don't typically have an opportunity to buy a new parcel with frontage along this rail line and put a new spur in. So the trend is obviously reuse or recycling of defunct sites like this with new uses where they can take advantage of the rail service. So I think that is really our critical hardship associated with that particular request, and that's the finished floor elevation of requiring elevation 13, we'd be requesting elevation 9. And next is a side yard setback. Once again, I'll be very brief on that. There are several different hardships that I presented in the application document, but the most overwhelming is certainly access, once again, to the rail. If I were to honor that, we'd have a 25-foot swath of open area between the building structure and the rail, and direct loading of rail cars would not be facilitated under the cover. The interest of our client is to be able to provide all of their activities under cover on the site. With that said, we did receive a couple of letters. I believe they'll probably, one or both will be read into the record this evening. I just wanted to summarize, I know you're just seeing for the first time my response to the comments of Eric Knapp, and I just wanted to summarize through some of these. The first comment on there was there were a variety, A, B, C, D. All of those comments are associated with our application. We revised the mechanics of the application, and that's included as an attachment to the package that I handed out to you this evening. No problem with any of those who are really housekeeping items. Item number 2 discusses the fact that Mr. Thomas had indicated that he observed some wetlands flags out there. We acknowledge that, and we've subsequently sent our wetlands professional out to examine that. We agree with that. We have subsequently flagged and surveyed those wetlands, and we will, for the record, certainly be attending and preparing an application and attending a meeting with the Wetlands Commission. Item number 3, there was a request for the copy of the previous variance. It was in the package, but it was obscured. I just called attention to where that is. Item 4, a report from the fire marshal that has been submitted. Number 5 is a report from the design review board. By issuance of this letter, we're here in identifying and certifying, if you will, that we will certainly be in front of the design review board with an application.
We've got a letter late today from the design review board.
Oh, great.
Confirming that we will be going to
Applying. Great, thank you. A report from the town engineer is needed, and that was received today. Proof of posting, I have a photograph in the attached document. It's the last page of the attached document. Item number 8 is the existing septic lines. We did, subsequent to receiving this, research those. As I mentioned, we met with the sanitarian, and they had some fairly good records, and based upon the discussions with the sanitarian, this system up here is a galley system. It's fairly new, and we'll be reusing that system. Item number 9 was with regard to the water line on the site. As an old warehouse storage facility, there was considerable concern about fire and fire protection, obviously, when this was constructed. They have their own fire tank on the site. I believe it's in the neighborhood of a couple 100,000 gallons. It has its own diesel pump, and it's also provided with domestic water. There's got to be, if I had to guess, I'd say there's somewhere between 6 to 12 fire hydrants located throughout the front of the facility. So obviously, fire protection was a sincere concern. Tracking all of that in one of these old facilities was a challenge. We had our GPR operator, our underground utility operator, out there on Monday. He traced it all, and Don Gessick picked it up for us yesterday, and we have it on a plan. It's not on the plan in front of you because I just got the plan from Sherry tonight from Don. But that will certainly be added in our planning and zoning application. So the water service does come down, does service the site. We'll be maintaining the existing fire hydrants and such. Comment number 10 was just housekeeping. That's been resolved. That was with regard to a reference to note number 6. We've taken care of that, and a couple of general comments. And as I say, once again, acknowledging that David Lord has indeed confirmed the presence of wetlands down in the southern part of the site. So with that said, I think I've covered everything with the exception of Mr. Thomas's letter that we received today. I did read through this, and we have no objection or concern with anything. We believe that we once again confirm that the wetlands have been located on the site. That was a concern that was presented. We will be in front of the Clinton Inland Wetlands, item number 2. Item number 3, requesting a complete list of all items to be reduced and recycled. I don't think that's relevant to this decision by this board tonight. We've identified what the uses are. The details associated with those uses will come up, I believe, in the Planning and Zoning Commission and in the Wetlands Commission.
I conferred with the zoning clerk, and she also concurred that the specifics on the use would be the jurisdiction of planning and zoning.
What, the use? Will be what?
The use of the building will be planning and zoning's purview, not the ZBA.
Mr. Andrews, what is the area of the concrete that's there existing outside the building? You said everything, all the activity taking place under the building?
Yeah, well, not all the activity. If I did say that, let me expound on that. Great question. The active truck loading and unloading will be taking place. So this would be a turning area. All of the processing activities will be executed within the building structure.
Recycle, by the way?
Exactly. This area may be used for storage of aggregates, process aggregate, roadway millings, other reusable, recyclable products that can be basically either purchased or brought into the site and then recycled and sent back for road-based DOT projects. Be amazed at the difficulty in finding places for storage for road millings. So that's the option that we would be looking at for storage in this particular area. The area of it is 186,000 square feet in total.
So less than half, about 94, right, you said?
Yes, 94, yeah.
Would zoning be under their purview for the great increase of truck traffic? Would that concern them?
Yes, that would be definitely handled. Yeah, we have a traffic study that has been commissioned right now and is underway, and our anticipation is certainly we'll be presenting a traffic study in front of Planning and Zoning.
Any questions for Mr. Andrews? Part of that here?
Yeah,
Basically?
I put a lot on your plate, so I'd be happy to give you a few minutes if you want to
Yeah,
look
Don,
things over.
any
It's a lot to
questions you
take
have,
in,
Don?
and I talk fast too, so.
Yeah, that's good. Bert, anything?
We're just concerned with these three things, not the use, not the
Yeah.
traffic, not the
Right.
visual.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, this is a list of documents received through April 14, 2015. Documents from this list will be read into the record upon request. The documents received after this time will be read into the record, and all the documents on file on land use office. March 23, 2015, document memo from Health Director Monopoly,
Yeah.
just like the game. Summary, no B100 review, no B100A review required for the ZBA application. Document April 6, 2015, letter to Andrews. Summary, April 6, 2015, staff review 15 comments. April 8, document email to Thomas, from Thomas, with summary, wetlands on site. Would anyone wish to have a document from this document read into the record? But the fire marshal dated April 15th. The fire marshal has no comments or concerns at this time with the extension of time from 24 months to 48 months regarding the reconstruction of the building located at 30 Old Post Road. As the project progresses, the fire marshal will be doing walkthroughs and inspections. Sincerely, William Roberts, Deputy Fire Marshal.
Fire suppression document, I'd like something read in there about that.
I'm sure what, sir?
You usually comment with anybody like that, any comments read into the record
Yes, I asked that.
of the previous, not of the fire department?
No, that's just his letter that we got from him. You can comment if you want.
Yes.
He's
Well,
gonna,
seeing as I,
Yes, sir. We're going to give you all the opportunity you want to speak, sir. George is just reading through correspondence we've received. You can make comments certainly in a moment when you get done. Okay, I'll be soliciting comments.
Perhaps just read his comments.
this one? All for the following comments right here.
That's this one. Describing the documents.
Okay, this is from Jacobson Engineering regarding this application dated April 15th. We offer the following comments. One, on April 2nd, 2015 site visit, we noted several areas of potential inland wetlands that were located within 100 feet of the project site. We informed George Andrews, project engineer, and David Lord, certified professional soil scientist, of our observations. In review of item number 3 above, the Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals application for certificate of variance, items 10 and 11 were checked to indicate that no tidal wetlands are located within 50 feet of the project, and that no inland wetlands are located within 100 feet of the project. 2, it is our understanding that no application has been submitted to the Clinton Inland Wetlands Commission. It is also our understanding that inland wetlands have been identified within 100 feet of the site by David Lord. It is recommended that an application be made to the Clinton Inland Wetlands Commission as soon as possible, as the ZBA may not be able to act on a variance request until 35 days after the Inland Wetland Commission has forwarded its decision and report. 3, we would recommend that a complete list of all items be reduced and recycled to be provided by the applicant, and no construction or demolition will be required, special handling to environmental contamination be allowed. And 4, we do not have any engineering-related issues with the requested variances, and note that the project represents sound reutilization of an existing facility. Sincerely, Wade Thomas, Associate. And this is from the Town of Clinton Design Review Board dated April 15th regarding this application. Please be advised that the Design Review Board will be reviewing any plans for the above referenced property in relation to any application which will be submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Sincerely, Julie Food and Land Use Technician. Okay, this is from the Land Use Department regarding this application, and Eric Mack's comments. Yeah.
The applicant has submitted his response to that
Okay,
letter.
that's good.
I think you should just note that for the record.
Yeah, and as Sherry said, these comments have been addressed by the applicant, responded to. This book?
I think Mr. Andrews went through this.
He went right.
He covered all of
I
this.
would just note the date of it for the record.
It's dated April 15th. What's it? Loureiro Engineering. That these comments were presented for us and addressed.
And everything?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the application? Would anyone like to speak in opposition to the application? Okay. Well,
Vince Semino.
I guess, but you had your hand up first?
I think I'm completely opposed to this application, and all three of the variances that are being requested, and George, with regard to should you consider what the activity is that's going to be taking place within this structure, I think that you absolutely have to take that into consideration, particularly with regard to the elevation, because those elevations, as you know, are created for a certain reason. It makes a difference when you get severe rainfall or water, what exactly it's going to come into and what's going to go out, and that's why those are established. And the fact that it's inconvenient for the applicant, frankly, he bought the property knowing exactly what, or should have known exactly what was required. Now, the drawing that the gentleman showed, unfortunately, makes it look like it's an island. It does not display the established residential neighborhoods that are located across the street, and particularly just on the other side of these railroad tracks, where they're trying to get a 3-foot side buffer, as opposed to 25, which is a minimum. And it's, again, a matter of inconvenience. Oh, well, it's already there, we don't have to build one. Unfortunately, they bought the property knowing that that was the condition. And this property is going to require, this project is going to require a change of use. It is no longer going to be warehousing. It's going to be recycling, which is a completely different activity. And I put a letter into the Planning and Zoning Commission, which I believe was referred to Town Council, who agreed with that opinion. I think that the fact that this property is going to be taking in, by the applicant's own application, 100 truckloads of material per day is going to be devastating not only to the immediate area but the entire town. And I'm completely opposed to it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name's Peter Ferry. I live in Founders Village. This is right out my back door. There's a stand of trees, the railroad tracks, and where they want to have this recycling plant. I'm going to be listening, already listened to 145 all day long. Clinton can do better than having this recycling plant here. The idea is just blows my mind. I'm going to have to move. The taxes I pay here are way higher than when they were when I moved here 12, 13 years ago. They're one of the highest in the Connecticut Shore. And we would have a dump in my backyard, a couple hundred truckloads of, or 100 truckloads. Just to think of the noise. Just imagine if that was in your backyard with a stand of trees in between you and that. It's just, it's going to make everybody in the whole condo complex miserable. And and the critters. We already have an abundance of critters that walk around because of the railroad tracks, and that's fine. But there's going to be rats, there's going to be mice, there's going to be all sorts of vermin. that's gonna be, I mean, that's just the way it is with recyclable stuff. I mean, I don't know why they can't get it, why Clinton can't get another tenant, whatever. I don't know why someone else can't get this instead of the recycling plant. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we see, folks, and I know that the use is a critical issue for many people here, but we
Yes.
can't look at this, that's going to be the P and Z's purview, excuse me. Yes, sir, you want next?
Yes, I'm also own in Founder's Village. Wanted to know if you
What's your
would,
name?
pardon?
What's your name?
George Lloyd.
George, okay.
And if you would go back over the 3 variances again, because I believe, unless I'm mistaken, one of them was a variance for the construction of the building, where it's not going to be built the same way as the original warehouse was. You have 2 very wide open sides.
Yeah.
So for clarification, is wide open literal, or does that mean doors are going to go up and down? So the activities inside stay inside?
Right, yeah, I think the reconstruction issue, they have to do it in 2 years, and that's exceeded, so it needs a variance or an extension of that.
Well, but the reason I'm asking that, I'm sure this type of operation is not going to be quiet. Aside from the truck issues back and forth, aside from the rail siding issues back and forth, I'm sure he's not going to be running from 8 to 4 during the day. It's probably a 24/7 or 24/6 operation. Nothing is in the variances, or something where the variances should have to do with the sound contamination.
That'll come to P and Z.
Planning and zoning will deal with all that. We're just going to
Yeah, that's why I want clarification.
Right, they'll be talking about
they'll clear that up.
or control that. That's what you're going to ask for some type of protection, of course.
Absolutely.
Right, right. And then-
Especially if the
They'll
building
take
should
that.
be built,
They'll
should
take
be
that up.
open and non-conforming for the sides.
Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right, we'll come to you, sir.
I'm also a resident, my name is Ralph Mariano. I'm also a resident of this village and the Founders Village Boards. What was presented just now was a package of variances. There's nothing there. Why they would even want it other than maybe they got a real cheap price on it. Everything, all the variances, like again, there's nothing about this that somebody who wants to do whatever they want to do, which is a question, then they say regrinding, and I've been around manufacturing long enough to know regrinding has a little bit of a sound to it. And I don't know if the town has a dB level as far as any decimal readings as far as coming from a manufacturing operation.
Again, I don't mean to put the dog, again, that's a use thing, you know, how are they going to use it, and what are the controls we could, that the P and Z could put on it, but that's really a P and Z issue. It's not the variance, you know, the variance they're asking for is a time element and side setback, you know, from the railroad. They want 3 feet, so that's kind of really, we're very focused, very narrow, if you would, we're working through that.
Well, then, all I have to say is I agree with the gentleman that spoke before me.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Eric Bowman. I also live in Founders Village.
Bowman?
Yes, with an H instead of a W.
Okay, oh, okay.
I understand that many of our concerns are going to have to be addressed to planning and zoning. However, one of the things that I am concerned about is that we are talking about a recycling plant. Precisely what materials are going to be recycled was not mentioned. I'm not aware of whether these things will be hazardous in nature or not, but the elevation certainly concerns me. The location of essentially what's a recycling plant transfer facility in an area that could be flooded would bother me very much.
Good point, thank you. Anybody else can speak? Any in opposition? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to reiterate what he just said, that depending on what the recycling and materials are.
I'm sorry, tell us who you are.
Oh, sorry, Lynn Posner with
Lynn
Lynn.
Posner,
Yeah,
POS.
POSNER,
Okay, and your Founders Village?
yes. And I'm probably 100 yards at best from the railroad tracks. But my concern would be, depending on what they are recycling, that elevation issue is huge, because it can that's wet all around Foundry Village, the entire circumference, except for Route 145. The entire circumference is wet. So depending on what it is they're recycling, whatever they're bringing in and having come down, and that also concerns me if they're going to be using this septic area that's at a higher elevation, what's that going to do? So that variation in particular bothers me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Yes, sir.
Mayor, Scott Renfrew,
Scott,
76 Founders,
what was your last name, sir?
Renfrew, R-E-N, F as in Frank, R-E-W.
Okay.
I'm also concerned from Founders. I can look out my kitchen window and see the flagpole on the other side of the railroad. And how many railroad cars are going to be coming through there and such? How long are they going to be operating? I mean, I know you're planning and zoning, so you're planning ahead.
So we're not planning zoning.
You're not
We're zoning
planning
board of appeals.
zoning board of appeals. So they've already gone to planning.
No,
No.
they have to go.
We have to give them a variance so they can go to P and Z.
Huh.
So that's where they're gonna talk about P and Z. That's where the big battle.
That's what the big battle's gonna be.
Why don't you stop the big battle and just deny it right now?
I'm opposed to all the noise and the fire problems that you might come up with.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am. And I use that term, I know, Miss Ma'am, I'm sorry. Miss Kavanaugh.
Yes, Ellen Kavanaugh, 29 Founders Village. As it stands now, and especially because I have a whole list of questions, and there's been many other people here, those questions aren't going to be answered tonight because it's not your job to do so. So as it stands now, I am definitely opposed to the project. I am also concerned very much about the wetlands and the effect of any runoff and any water on the existing septic systems of the surrounding area, which happens to be Founders Village in its backyard. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kavanaugh. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am.
Maureen Galligan, 18 Foundry Village. I just want to say I'm in opposition for it. Same reason everybody else has mentioned, so cut it short. Totally opposed.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Claire Halloran, Founders Village. I am totally opposed.
I didn't get your last name.
Halloran, H-A-L-L-O-R-A-N. I am totally opposed. The number of variances being described makes it sound like it's simply not fit.
Thank you.
I didn't hear it.
She said not a fit. It's not a good fit. The number of variances. Opposed. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm 30 Founders Village, Jennifer Scantellamana, and I'm also opposed to the project for any number of reasons spoken about today.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Hi, Lisa Riccitelli. I'm also in Founders Village, and I'm the president of the association. I am opposed. It's expired, so it's expired. You just can't extend it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Yes, sir.
I had one more.
Coming back.
One more.
One other thing is that everyone here is...
Ralph, right?
Yes, yes,
Super Ralph Marino?
Miranda.
Miranda.
Everyone here that spoke is from Founders Village. But this project is going to affect Clinton. And not just Founders Village. Founders Village is going to get the first punch out of the face. The Clinton, as a town, is going to take a hit. And all I can say is, on the west end, town got away with not blowing up half of the Clinton with the propane tanks. Now we're going to get hazardous waste coming at us on the other side.
Oh, not hazard. That's DEP. Nobody else do. Okay, anybody else speak against? Yes, ma'am. Hold on, let's just lay it back here. Mary Beth, just come up a little bit so we can't hear you.
I'm Mary Beth Ferry at 84 Founders.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mary, but we couldn't repeat the last name.
Ferry.
Barry?
F-E-R-R-Y.
Very like the boat.
Barry.
Like Barry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The traffic is going to be absolutely awful. There are a lot of trucks like Stop and Shop and all those going up through there. If you've driven that area where the overpass is, it's going to be terrible, absolutely so dangerous. When trucks are coming out there and they're coming from the other side of the road, the cement place or stone place, whatever it is, it's just going to be unbelievable, very unsafe.
Okay.
And I feel that, as we all do, our property value is going to go way down.
Thank you.
Really, it's going to suffer.
Thank you. Yes, sir, he's, everybody's hold on. Let everybody else,
Thank you.
you come back.
Yes, of course, I didn't see that.
Ralph jumped in.
Thank
My name is John Conti, 9 Westwoods Drive, and I'm
John, I'm trying to pick up your last name again.
C-O-N-T-I.
C-O-N-T-Y. Hi. And you were with?
9 Westwoods Drive. And I'm generally opposed to the variance that was given here, because it will give them an opportunity to go further with their applications for a number of reasons that have been stated here tonight. As to whether that should apply or not, that's my view.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Everyone had a chance? It's round 2.
So, Mr. Chairman, the reason why I didn't even address the reconstruction aspect of it is because that I really don't even believe is within your purview any longer. It has expired, like a statute of limitations. You go one day over, it's gone. So what they really need to do is they need to go to P&Z and ask them if they'd like to change the regulation to now allow 94,500 square feet, because the window to reconstruct any part of the old building is gone. It's closed. If they wanted an extension, then you have to do it while the window is still open. You can't come back and say, oh, you know what? I forgot something. I meant 2 months ago to ask you to extend this, and of course now it's expired. Well, it's expired. So I didn't even bother to address it because I assume that you realize that it's expired and gone, and it cannot now be extended. Thank you.
Can it be extended?
Thanks, John. We're going to find out. All right. Anyone else like to speak? All right. We may need some more information on this. We just need some better, further clarification on some of our...
There's some issues that we need to look up.
Yeah, maybe even an attorney, we'll have an attorney look at it, just to get it, we're all on the right page here. Oh, can we get a motion?
We've had a motion
To continue this application to next month.
Right.
Okay. Bert made it, Charlie seconded it.
Right.
Any discussion? All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Okay. Come on back next month. Next month, come on back and talk about this new.
What day? Next Monday or next month?
Wednesday. Always the third Wednesday.
That's going to be our last meeting.
We should keep the updated emails coming so we all know.
I will.
Third Wednesday.
I will. Mike will be back tomorrow, so Mike usually does.
Hey, hope guys, we're going to have a meeting here still. Let me speak. Go out in the room, please. We got to keep going this meeting.
I gotta be at work at 6 o'clock.
So, yeah.